We are now going to practice some basic techniques with Plans Express. This will take a few minutes, but once you have mastered them, this will make the rest of the training much more straightforward. First, load a new template. Go to File, New from Template, and select an A1 1 to 50 with title and notes block. Click OK. The first thing we're going to look at is using the middle scroll wheel. The middle scroll wheel mouse is an essential tool with Plans Express. You cannot really use the software without one. If you do not have one, you should be able to buy one from any PC provider or even your local supermarket. The scroll wheel is used to zoom in and out of the drawing. To see this in action, move your mouse or cursor onto the drawing title block at the right of the screen. Scroll the wheel in and out, and you will see the software zoom in and out. You will see that the software has zoomed in and out around the original cursor position. Zoom out, move the cursor position and zoom in again, and you will then see that Plans Express is zoomed in on that new position. We're now going to look at moving the drawing sheet around the screen. Hold the middle scroll wheel down and keep it pressed down. Notice a hand icon has appeared on screen. Keeping the middle mouse pressed down, move the sheet around to place the title block in the middle of the screen. Zoom in and out if you wish. This process of scrolling and dragging the page around is an important one to master. Spend a few seconds practicing doing this so that you can easily move the page around, locate and zoom in on points of interest on the drawing. Next, let's take a look at construction lines. These work in exactly the same way as drawing a faint pencil line on the drawing to help set things out. These are located on the Drawings and Annotation ribbon. First, click on the horizontal construction line and place towards the top of the page. You may need to zoom out before you do this. Next, click the left-hand mouse button to place the line. We are now going to set out another line relative to the first horizontal line. Select another line. Hold your mouse over the construction line. Do not click, but instead press R on your keyboard. This tells the software that you want to set out something relative to another point, rather than snapping onto it. Next, press the down arrow on your keyboard and enter 5000. Hit OK, and another horizontal construction line appears 5000 millimeters away from the first line. Let's now repeat this process for a vertical construction line. Select a vertical construction line from the menu and place on the left-hand side of the drawing. Click OK with the left-hand mouse. Once again, hold the mouse over the intersection of the two lines or anywhere on the vertical construction line. Press R on your keyboard. Again, this is because you wish to set out a line relative to the first line, R standing for relative. This time, hit the right-hand arrow on your keyboard and enter 6000. Hit OK, and another line appears, this time 6000 millimeters away from the first. You can use the construction lines to set out anything on a drawing, such as the overall footprint of a house. Let's now have a look at the escape key. Some commands, such as construction lines, doors and windows, will continually be available to draw unless we press the escape key on this keyboard. This key usually appears on the top left-hand side of your keyboard and is marked ESC. To stop the current command, press Escape, and the software is then available to select objects rather than to draw another construction line, door or window, etc. You'll notice now that because I have pressed Escape that I can now select, for example, the construction lines. You can also drop the current command by selecting another object, such as a manhole, a roof, or a wall, etc. Let's now have a look at the undo and redo commands. If you ever make a mistake using the software, or you want to undo something you have done, locate the undo command at the top left of the screen and press undo. This will remove that mistake. Conversely, if you press the redo button, this will cause the mistake to reappear. Try pressing undo a couple of times and you will see the construction lines disappear. Repeat undo 2 more times and all the lines will be removed. Now click on the redo button 4 times and all the lines will reappear. Remember, you can always use the undo command whenever you make a mistake or when you get stuck while using the software. You can use the undo and redo command to undo anything, such as undo a delete. You can also use the standard window commands Ctrl-Z to undo or Ctrl-Y to redo. We will now have a look at selecting items from the architectural ribbon or toolbar. Click on the architectural ribbon. Look closely at the buttons. Underneath each button is a small down arrow which gives you access to the underlying selections. On the left-hand button, click on the down arrow. Notice that the button currently displays a symbol denoting brick and block work. Select the stone cavity block wall. Choose a particular wall height, say a single story. Left click with your mouse. Once the resulting dialog box has loaded, you will notice that the button has changed its appearance to show the stone cavity block wall. This means that in the future, if you now click on the button, it will allow you to draw a stone cavity block wall. You do not have to drill down into the menu in the future to select that wall type. Simply click on the button. The button has, in effect, remembered the specification of the last wall you drew. Next, work through the resulting dialog and note that the software is asking for details that define the dimensions and specification for the walls. Note that the cells entered in yellow will affect the appearance of the drawing, for example the wall height. Values entered into the white cells are being collected for estimating purposes when used in conjunction with Estimator Express and do not affect the appearance of the drawing. Click Finish when you have reviewed all the dialogues. You can now enter the wall onto the drawing. Place your mouse over the first intersection point and left click. Raise your finger off the mouse, place it on the second point and left click again. Repeat the process for the third and fourth intersection. After the third click, press C on your keyboard to close the loop. The C command can always be used to close any item, and it will always close the loop via the shortest direction. Now use the undo command to remove all the walls. Next, add the walls back by selecting the stone cavity wall button and adding back 2 walls to the left and bottom of the rectangle. Now press S on the keyboard, and this again closes the loop, but does so by keeping the walls at right angles, i.e. it does not take the shortest distance between the start and the current position and maintains a rectangular shaped building. The S key only works for walls. Let's now have a look at justification. First click on a wall that you have just drawn. You will see that the wall appears dotted, indicating that the wall has been selected. If you look at the top left-hand side of the screen, you will notice that the wall is justified to the right or left of the wall, depending on how you drew the wall and the justification mode that the system was last used in. If you select Justify Center, the wall is justified to the center of the line. If you do it to the left, it is justified to the left. Bear in mind that you will not always have a construction line there, and the wall may be changing its position relative to an imaginary line. Let's place that back in right-hand justification. If I select all the walls by clicking to the top left-hand corner, holding my mouse down and dragging over, you will then see that all the walls have been selected. I can then click on those to justify those to the left. You will now see that all of those have been justified to the left of the lines. The justification of the wall can often be confusing, as it depends on the way that the wall has actually been drawn. The important thing is to check that visually it appears okay and switch the justification if required. Let's start by showing you the basic commands of how to draw walls. Click on the architectural ribbon, choose the external walls, brick and block cavity wall. On this occasion I'm going to pick a 2.4 high single story wall. A dialog pops up. For those of you who already have Estimator Express, you'll recognize these. For the time being, I'm just going to accept the defaults. I can then place the walls anywhere on the drawing. I click with my left mouse, take my finger off the mouse, move to a next position, and repeat the process, clicking, lifting my finger off as I go around. When I finish drawing my walls, I press Escape. Now I've got my walls. I'm going to zoom in on those by placing my mouse in the middle of that particular group of walls and scrolling my mouse wheel out. Reversing the process goes the other way. I can select each individual wall by clicking on it, or I can draw from top left to bottom right to select a group of walls. You'll notice that only the walls that I've embraced with the rectangle have been selected. Alternatively, if I go from bottom right to top left, you'll now notice that all the walls that touch the rectangle have been selected, as opposed to all the walls that were completely embraced by the rectangle. Once I've selected a group of objects, I can now copy them, rotate them, or in this case, delete them. Let's see that again. Select the walls, click, the walls appear selected, and you can then delete them using your keyboard. I'm now going to draw some more walls, but this time I'm going to constrain them to be at right angles, since most houses are constructed with walls at right angles. I click on the wall. This time it's remembered the previous wall I've selected. Again, I can zoom in and out. I can also press the middle mouse button to drag the drawing around to get the drawing in exactly the position I want. I can then click, and this time I'm going to press the Shift key on my keyboard. You'll notice that the wall is at perfect right angles. If I keep the Shift key pressed down and move my mouse across, you can see that everything is kept perfectly at rectangles. If I now press S on my keyboard, the software automatically assumes that I want to go back to my starting point, and I then have a nice rectangular house. I can zoom in on those again using my scroll wheel and out the other way. If I want to lay out my house using dimensions, I can select my walls again, click on the drawing, and you may have noticed down at the bottom right hand corner the X and Y coordinates have appeared. If I click on those and move my mouse, you'll now see the dimensions have appeared. I could also have gone into the dimension mode by pressing the F8 on my keyboard. Again, I'm going to hold my Shift command to keep everything at right angle. I can zoom in and position it exactly on the dimension that I want. Keeping my finger on the Shift key, I can see the precise dimensions that I've got. Again, I'm going to press S to close. I can leave the dimension mode and return to snap mode by pressing F7 on the keyboard. Snap mode allows me to snap on ends and middles of walls, etc. If I then repeat the process, press F7, the dimensions have disappeared. Press F8 and they reappear. If I press F7 again to go into snap mode and place my mouse over the starting point, you'll see that an end point has appeared and a dotted line. If I move it carefully over to the right and press the Shift key, the 2 points have lined up exactly. I can then press S or C on my keyboard to close it, and once again the loop is closed. I'm now going to show you how you can set out a building even more quickly. First, I reposition the drawing to make space for the new foundation. Holding the middle mouse key down, I can move the drawing around, zoom in and out to create the required space. Click on the wall button and place the wall on the drawing. This time though, I'm going to press the down arrow on my keyboard. A dialog appears into which I can enter the dimensions of the wall. This time the wall is 8,500 millimeters long. You'll notice that it's done the internal dimension of the wall at this stage. If I want it to do the external dimension, I need to change the justification. I then hit the right arrow on my keyboard and enter the length of the wall. I then press the down arrow to put a front projection, enter 1200 millimeters, another 400, 500 millimeters to the right, press my up key, enter 1200 millimeters, and finally enter 4500 to the right. I can then use my S command to complete the building. Zoom out, see the whole drawing, and move it over. Let's have a look at the 3D images of the houses we've drawn so far. Click on the 3D preview button and the 3D window appears on the right hand side of the drawing. I can resize that drawing by placing my mouse over the edge of the frame, holding the mouse key down and dragging it across. The same on the other axis. I can then zoom in using my middle mouse, hold the button down, and I can explore the images that I've created. I can change the appearance by clicking on the different buttons. There's the shaded view, the wireframe, and the transparent view.